As we started up, I want to remind the board of some information that I gave the board the last meeting in the current production that we have at some of the sites. So I'll just be real brief on this. We're currently at 75% at our lowest, approximately 135% of original production at our highest producing site. Across the board district average, we're averaging about 92% electrical reduction across the board. And again, this is just a snapshot of the larger spreadsheet that's available online. I gave that link last board meeting. I thought it would be important to take a look at some of the acronyms that may show up in some of the slides, so I wanted to give you a minute to ask any questions on any of these. Some of these will be showing up. Some of these we're familiar with, CPUC. Did the board have any questions on any of these agencies or terms? Carbon credits. Carbon credits were established or begun somewhere around AB 32. And this sets a limit that the California has, it's a goal that California is reaching for to reduce carbon emissions back down to the 1990s level. At some point, there's a number of ways of doing this. What we're going to be talking about tonight is similar to a carbon credit, but it's not quite a carbon credit, and I hope to explain that tonight. I hope to save you a number of hours of reading the legislation. What we have from our solar systems are what they call a renewable energy credit. It's not a carbon credit. It's a little bit different. The calculations are a little bit different. Under the public law, renewable credits are a certificate of proof that we have a reduction in electrical use. They're not necessarily a carbon reduction. They're a reduction in what could be a carbon emission, because we would normally buy energy from a utility that produces carbon emissions. By doing the electrical, how we're doing it, what we're actually doing is reducing the need from that purchase. So by doing so, what we have is a renewable energy credit, not necessarily a carbon credit. So there's basically three types of renewable energy credits on the market. You have bundled, unbundled, and tradable renewable energy credits. What we have, depending on the size of these, is what I would consider the most advantage that we would have would be bundling all of our credits. Instead of taking each system individually, we would benefit by bundling all the energy we're producing into a single unit rather than taking, say, Northgate and possibly Highlands. And this has become obviously why bundling these would be important. When we look at the RECs for value, large companies that produce carbon emissions or are dirty by nature look at renewable energy credits in how they can use them to reduce their carbon footprint. And renewable energy credits are traded in what they call a voluntary market. Most of the things that we have would be in a voluntary market. They're not in a mandatory market. Most of the things that the major utilities are doing, they are not voluntary. They are mandated by the law to reduce their carbon emissions to those levels on a prescribed time. What we're doing would be on a voluntary nature. We're not required by law to do that based on being a public entity. So we would have, our credits are available in a voluntary market. We're not part of the large utilities that would be required to reduce those emissions, at least not yet. One of the important things that came out from CPUC to give renewable energy credits potential value is that people that produce electricity on site are allowed to retain these renewable energy credits. So although we're part of the grid with PG&E, we retain the credit. And I'll show you real quickly the value on that and what that means. But typically, if you would be connected to the grid, there was a question on whether or not PG&E owned those credits or the local producer owned those credits. So the decision by CPUC recently was that the facility producing the electricity actually retains the credit. Here's just some quick information on the renewable energy credits. Currently, the tradable renewable energy credits have a lifespan of about 3 years before they disappear, is how the legislation is currently written. The entire process is changing quickly, and they're still making decisions and changes to the system to make this a more viable market throughout California. But right now, they're saying that they have a 3-year lifespan. One of the things to make a renewable energy credit valid requires them to be certified and tracked by a tracking agency, and one of these that they're using for the western area is this WREGIS system. And anyone that would have these credits, and this includes carbon credits, this particular agency tracks also carbon credits. And again, the renewable energy credits are based on the production, they're not based on carbon. The real question that we were asked was, do these credits have any value? The short answer is yes, they do have a value. There is a market for renewable energy credits. The actual value depends on how they're classified. Unbundled, bundled, tradable. It's a market that if somebody's looking to buy renewable energy credits, how they are classified changes the value that they may or may not have. And one of the things that we'll be looking at is what those markets look like. For us, we can sell our renewable energy credits to a company, and this company can buy our credits and in turn use those credits in their advertising and say, we're a green company. But once we give out those credits, then we can't say that Mount Diablo Unified is a green district. So once we sell the credits, we no longer can say we're green, if that makes sense. So we're just selling the right to say you're green. I wanted to go over a couple of quick costs that would be associated with putting together RECs and selling these. One of the big things is, like I said, we have to register with Western Regional Energy, and there's a cost to do that. Now, depending on how we either bundle or do not bundle renewable energy credits, will have an impact on the cost. If we bundle everything, there's a $1,500 cost to set up the account, and then there's annual fees with issuing the certificates, the actual renewable energy certificate that's sold. And that's based on how many megawatt hours you produce. Then there's a broker fee. The market exists with brokers. There's not an entity that you can sell these to and somebody buys them. There's brokers that would take our energy credits, find a buyer, and then sell these. And then there's some transfer fees that are associated with it. They're very minimal, but I do not have a district administrative fee. I didn't investigate that. Based on a discussion with several brokers out east, a renewable energy credit has about a $1 to $2 value per certificate. Each certificate is approximately 1 megawatt of energy produced. Currently, and I'll give you these are raw numbers from this date. We're tracking these on the website on a daily basis. So this is from the date that these were generated. The district had approximately 2,900,000 kilowatt hours